Welcome everybody. We wanted to give you a basic overview how to cape out an animal rolled up frozen for your taxidermist. One of the issues with caping is that people don't take the back cut far enough back. The easiest way with a cape is you do your main back cut and then straight down the back of the front legs and straight up to the stomach. When you're preparing the stuff for meat, remember you try and get the least amount of fur onto the animal as possible. Just makes it a lot easier. And with Rusa, they can have really thick fur, especially up around the neck. There we go. So yeah, down this front leg. And then all the way up to the other cut. And it helps to have a really nice knife to do all this. What you're doing here is you're cutting in between the skin and the start of the sinew. There is a bit of membrane that's easy to leave on the meat. If I was had plenty of time and I was being really careful, I'd probably cut all of it off, but it doesn't matter too much tonight because we've got a bit time constrained and want to do a lot of the butchery as well. So you pick a point in the centre, straight in, and then, now as you'll see in a minute, the skin on a Rusa neck is super thick. Like as you can see, it's over 1 centimetre thick here. Takes quite a bit of getting through. So that's done. And then with the coronets, you basically line it up all the way in, and then you don't try and go that quick, but you just sort of move it out into a Y.
Just explain what the coronets do.
So the coronets are the base of the antlers. And then on the other side, that's all right. Ooh. Come on, you. So you just make it meet up in a Y, and that's the taxidermist will sew that up later. With the legs, I usually hock them. So if you feel a leg joint and you run up, and you'll see when you first start to feel the bulge of the leg, so you usually just run it all the way around. And when I get late, I'll leave this on now because I'm caping, so I've got a bit of a handle, but later on I'll show you the technique to take them off. It is pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So it's separating the skin off the meat. You're just separating it all off. Try not to cut through the skin at all. Along the neck area it's a lot easier because it's so thick. But on the underside of the animals, it is really thin and easy to cut through. Again, it's not the end of the world if you do. The taxidermists get very good at patching. Main thing is to be patient. If you get frustrated, that's when you usually start making mistakes and start going straight through the skin. And any of these bits of meat that you leave on can be taken off by the taxidermist later. Yeah, so the main reason we're trying to get the cape off and to a taxidermist is to prevent hair slip. If hair slip starts, basically the hair will fall out, the cape will be no good, and you'll need to get a new cape. You want to try and get it as cool as possible, as soon as possible. Up here in Queensland, it is still very warm at the start of the raw, so you want to try and get any of your meat and your capes into a chiller or into an esky with ice as soon as possible. When I come to the base of the ears, I'll cut hard against the skull. You've got all this cartilage in behind the ear, and you don't want to cut through that. But I might start doing the lips and stuff first before I keep on going. So basically you cut right on the edge of the mouth. It's a little bit hard to see. And just on the edge of the teeth, basically. So just cutting along the edge there, and then down the side of the teeth. It's fairly awkward position. Best thing with this is to take your time, don't rush, then you're not going to make the mistakes that'll lead to disaster. When you're doing this stuff and doing a massive big cut, or worse, cutting yourself, especially in the field, it's the last thing you want to do. Then I'll transfer back up. Now the one thing I did forget, and that can make life very easy with doing this part, is a screwdriver for the coronets, for taking the base of this fur off around this section. A screwdriver allows you to sort of lever it off. You can work your knife in and get it. It's just a lever, it's just makes it a little bit easier. There's just a bit of a tricky bit around the coronets. You've got to go all the way to the top, and then you can sort of, once it starts, you can sort of peel it off. The next major hurdle you're going to come to, once you basically get it off all around the coronets, is the eyes and then the preorbital glands. Preorbital glands are these here, and you have to be very careful when you're cutting these, that you cut against the bone. They're actually very thin, and it's basically a thin membrane hard against the bone, so you've got to be careful doing that. Once you get one side off, it'll make it a lot easier on the other side. And then there we go, that's off. Once you get the right angle, you can sort of wedge it all off. So we've got the coronets, that probably does slow you down a bit. Yeah, so that's all off from the antlers. Again, now I'm cutting hard in against the skull, so I don't wreck anything. All this meat can come off later, and you can just get the taxidermist to do it all. All right, so the start of the eyes, you just got to be real gentle coming. I don't know if you can see that, but I've come to the top basically of the eye ridge, and then you don't cut straight across. I basically sort of cut down into it there. You want to keep all the eyelids and such intact. It's sort of like the more you sort of get of this section, the easier it is for them. Get my finger in there, cut right down, basically onto the eyeball when I'm doing it. Doesn't matter if you cut through the eye, that's all stuff they can sort out later. It's just to make sure all the meat that they need for doing the eyes and making them look correct is there. Here, come over the eye. Again, the best way often is to get your finger in there so you can sort of feel where it is and where it starts to go down, because it's sort of recessed into the skull. Again, this is one of the most delicate parts of the whole thing, because it's sort of, again, you stay hard against the bone. It's a lot easier to not do any damage to it. So these are the delicate little areas. Once you get all this off, you're pretty much done. And then wrap it up in the freezer, off to the taxidermist, and then that's his problem, not yours anymore. Try and keep the skin to skin or meat to meat when you're doing it. So here I'm hitting the top of the molars. So I'm basically cutting out the inner piece of the cheek. Again, you can let the taxidermist sort that out later. Here I'm down onto the lower jaw, finishing that off. With the nose, as soon as you get it soft, you just cut straight down through the cartilage. And again, that's something you get the taxidermist to sort out.
Normally it's about 12 months to get it back. At least 6 months. So.
Yep. All right, so there's the cape off. No cuts, all my fingers are still intact, so that's a win. So usually you'll try and fold them up. Meat to meat, and then wrap it all up, and that'll go into the freezer.
If you don't have a freezer or a cold room around, you can buy a big bag of 20 kilo salt from Bunnings and just drown it in salt. Make sure you rub it in, massage it, give it a good rub, and make sure you get all the corners, work it in real hard. Basically, it just should look like snow over the top of it.
A taxidermist only needs the skull cap. However, if you're going to do a Euro, I'll leave it intact. So you want to cut it off behind the head here. It'll take a bit to find the joint, but you're basically going behind the head until you find the joint, and then that's with all of these deer. It can be a tiny little bit of sinew can make it stay together really well until you hit it, and then it'll come apart really easily. There's a few little bones in the neck there that make it tricky. Now I can tell you they don't all come off that easily, that's for sure. If you find the joint, it's quite easy to get through them. If not, it takes a while. Hopefully your missus won't complain too much about the head you put up on the wall. So that's that part done. Alrighty, so in the field, if you have access to a vehicle or you don't have to carry it back very far, I'll gut the animal and then try and get it out whole. If you can't, and depending how big the animal is and how far away it is, how much meat you have, how much meat you want. We are blessed in this country to have an overabundance of deer, but generally in the wild, I'll do the backstraps first. So you'll do your slit along the back, and then you start getting into the backstraps, which run along either side of the spine. They're generally considered as one of the best parts of the deer. So generally in the field, you put these front legs under it, and that helps to stabilise it. It's not exactly as clean as I'd usually like. Keeping some of this fat on and then removing that later with all the bits of further sticking to it really helps. When we come to taking out the back straps of an animal, I'll generally feel along till you feel the hip bone here. It's not super prominent how it is, but it's right here. So I'll generally do the back cut down and then peel it off till you get to that section, and you're feeling for that bone, the start of the hip bone, which is right there. Now if you feel that bone right there, I'll come around this side. Got a bone, you come in along that bone to the spine, and you do your dorsal cut all the way back till they meet up. And then you basically you're taking the fillet off the spine. Now most people generally regard this as the best piece of meat on the deer. There's also the tenderloin, which gets left too often, but I think is superior. It's just a matter of filleting it basically off the spine. Now it runs up in underneath the front shoulders, so I'll usually separate a all that off. And as you separate some of this fat too, you're often taking away a lot of the fur and stuff that was stuck to it. So that can really help clean it up. So this one was unfortunately hit a little bit high, and it's gone through the base of the backstrap there. So you've got to probably lose a little bit. You do have to be careful of meat damage from a bullet. I generally take it up to basically the front of the shoulders. Don't want to go too much further than that. It comes into neck meat, and you also can, the actual backstrap will end. Usually the next thing I do in the field after I've taken the backstrap off, sometimes I'll do both sides. The other way I'll do it is then lean it on its side and take the back leg off. I usually cut out any bloodshot meat, so any of the darker blood that's stuck in there, I'll usually remove. Which is that sort of stuff. I'll take all of that out. That generally that's basically bruising. That's what a bruise would look like if you actually cut it open. So you don't want any of that stuff, and it could contain some of the bullet fragments. With the back legs, this is a lot easier because it's already been sort of the half bits done. But you just come in the center and you just follow it down. You're looking for the ball joint.
Helps when you put pressure on this leg too, out the paddock.
So you've just cut through the ball joint straight there. And then again, you're trying to chase the hip bone so you lose the least amount of meat as possible.
Underneath there's your rump. So you want to stay hard against that bone because rump's a really nice piece of meat, good for curries, slow cook.
And here you can see how good a condition this animal was. That there is fat. So heaps of fat, so really good nick, this animal.
Where's the glands to look out for? We've got one in the mower.
Yeah, so generally if you cut out all the big chunks of fat, you're going to get nearly all the glands. As you can see in here, we've got glands in this fat right here. They're the nasty bit. You do not want that in your meat, or else that's where you'll get a lot of the gamey flavour that's from the glands. You can find them on front and back legs.
There's the one just in there as well, basically just in there.
So if you concentrate on cutting out any of the big chunks of fat, a lot of the time people won't eat venison fat. A lot of the time it's probably because they get chew on one of these and then they'll definitely regret it. I find with venison fat, if it's at the right time of year, it can still be nice to eat, but it might not be. A giveaway if it's fully white. If it's not fully white, I wouldn't have a bar of it. So any animal that starts getting towards the rut or even pregnant female, stuff like that, where they're drawing on their resources, they're not going to be as tasty as one that's building up and fattening themselves. With the back leg, when it gets to this stage, it's basically, and again, it's following the hip bone. And there's your back leg. I don't know if this will be the best side to demonstrate it. Probably not. Generally, when I've done this, if I'm not taking the whole animal in the field, I've got the back strap off and the back leg off. I'll go straight for the tenderloin, which is generally in behind here. So again, find the hip. And you get in here. Unfortunately, this tenderloin's been pretty much destroyed, but I'll show you how it comes out. It's in here along the back, but I would not eat this one because it's been hammered by the bullet. But that's your tenderloin, runs along the back there. And you can get it without, I often get them out without gutting the animal. So there's your tenderloin, there's the best bit of the deer, and it's actually a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It'll probably clean up. It's a few little bits of bloodshot meat.
There's a video of Matty gutting on the Venture YouTube channel, and he shows you how to take the fillets out with the guts still in.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting video.
So there's a tenderloin, that's the best bit of the deer. With front shoulders, it's just lift his neck on. So it's just simple. They don't have a ball joint or anything, so they're actually pretty easy to cut off.
You're looking for that white stuff. So that's the blade, just where Matty's knife's going through.
And you can cut a bit of that if you want.
That looks awesome.
Yeah. Now, if you're ever doing slow cookers, that is by far the best bit. Hang on a second. I'd go through the fat because there will be glands in that section in there. So I would cut it out. Like any big chunks of fat often have glands in them. So if you just remember that and cut it all out, you shouldn't come across a big disgusting chunk of a gland. I love doing them for slow cookers. With venison, because generally they don't have much fat, you need all that connective tissue to be broken down slowly over time to get to become really nice and juicy and stuff. If you did that with the primo cuts in a slow cooker, it'd be pretty dry when you tried to eat it and it wouldn't taste anywhere near as good. I generally use neck and front shoulders for all the slow cooking stuff. I usually always take these off. Some people really struggle to get them off. I'm not the best at it, but I generally feel till it starts, you'll feel the leg goes up and it starts to ramp up into a little bit of a curve, and it's right on the apex of that curve. I generally do my cut around the leg, and you make sure you get the hair the whole way around, and then it's a matter of cutting into the bit, and it should crack like that. And then, yeah, as you just twist the bit, do a cut, and it's pretty simple. A lot of people have a lot of issues getting that, but again, it's just as it starts to ramp up. If you see on the leg here, it's only just started to curve up. Like it comes up and then it just comes to that first apex there, and you're cutting on that edge, and it's just a matter of cutting through the sinew. If you look, the sinew is only millimeters thick, but it's incredibly strong. So you just got to get a knife in the right spot, a bit of a crack. Once it starts, follow it through with your knife, and it's not too difficult.
This is your shoulder, your front shoulder. Like Matty said, there are a few glands in the fatty areas. Really good for one, mincing and stewing. You can do it boneless, or you can do it with bone in. Now, your beef cuts would be your oyster blade, chuck tender. That's actually your chuck up in here. So it's the chuck tenders on here now. So when you're doing it, take it off. Make sure you got that sinew like Matty showed you, and that's the blade there. So that blade's basically a triangle kind of piece. That's what you're kind of looking for. So I'll show you the boneless way. Nothing worse when you're out in the middle of the backcountry and you've got, weight is everything. So easy way how to bone these. Pretty simple. You can do it on a tree. So if you do on a tree, put a knife like Matty's already done through here, and you can hang it off a tree, and then you can basically be a butcher. So first thing I do is your blade's just here, and again, your blade's a triangle. So put your knife in there and just cut away off this blade. And again, have your meat bags ready to go, because that'll be all good trim there. That's good, great mince there. And normally a lot of guys leave the shoulders. Don't leave the shoulders. It's great for pies, stewing, curry meat, all that. Now, as a butcher, I was always taught to use your tip of your knife and, use your whole blade at the same time. Now, this bit here, there's your blade. Can we see that properly? Okay, so I'm going to put my knife, see that triangle? I'm going to basically put, I don't want to go too far like that. I want to have my blade, tip of my knife like this. All I'm doing is just cutting. Yeah, I don't know if you can see that. See that silver? I want to try and leave that on, okay? Go on this side, tip a knife up against that. Triangle again. And then what you want to do, put your hand, I'll try and do it so you guys can see it. Put my hand on that triangle and pop the ball joint. Okay, can we see that? See that little ball joint that's just popped up? Alright, so now I put my tip of my knife, again, I'm not going full blade, just tip underneath that ball joint and we're scooping under. Now there's a little, it's basically the size of your blade, and that's where one side your chuck tender and one side would be your bowler blade. Now I'm going to hit that and I'm going to scrape. Sounds horrible on your knife, but trust me, you want it to work really, really well. So I use my butt of my knife. Hear that? It's a horrible sound, but if you can do it properly, and we do our tip of our knife against this blade, it should all work nicely if I do it properly. And sometimes it doesn't. Now also, the oil comes out of here is very slippery. So, and that's same with your joints for your knuckle and your back leg. So be careful because it will slip and will hurt. And you don't want stitches. Now be careful because that bit there is quite sharp. Now we've come basically pulling this blade off. Alright. So you guys that hunt fallow bucks and stuff like that, chuck that near the fire, dry it out, and then you got your nice itself a little scraper and rattler, and that's basically what they used to use anyway. So that there, right there, oops, sorry, cameraman. That there is your bowler blade and your chuck tender. All you have to do is cut straight across there, and that there's beautiful pieces of meat for casserole, everything. So that piece there is your chuck tender. That there would be your oyster blade or your bowler blade. Basically, it's all the same. Just a shoulder meat, great for stewing. Again, trim it as you go. That's you probably can't see it. You cut into that. There's lots of glands. There you go, some glands there. Now, with glands, make sure you give your knife a wipe after. All I do on my pants. My partner hates. Now, your front leg, or your ball joints there. Again, tip of your knife hard against the bone. Okay, we're opening that up. This stuff's great for stewing meat. And if you don't like stewing meat, that's fine. Great for awesome for what am I trying to say? Mince. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, sorry. I'm watching with my hands going. Now we also want to keep the shank. Okay, so cut in here. If you hate running your knife along a bone, reciprocating saw is the best thing in the world if you're back at camp and stuff like that.
What brand are those knives?
This one's a Victorinox.
So yeah, camp knives I've been using and at home, filleting fish, cutting up deer. We've been using the Victorinox curved bowman style for 25 years. They're definitely my favourite. Prefer them than other steels for at home. They're a soft steel, but it means they're easy to sharpen. And when you're at home, you've got a near steel, so you can quickly touch it up. Pretty easy.
Very forgiving knife. If you hit doing what I'm doing right now, you know, you're going through a lot of bone to get to the shank. Again, reciprocating saw is your best friend. And the front shoulder is difficult to get through. They'll burn a lot of guys' knives out very quickly. So, there's your shank. And that there would be a nice piece of shoulder. Great for stewing meat. Again, if you don't like stewing meat, great for mince. And the dogs will love you as well. You trim it up as you go, obviously. A bit of fat there that you take away. Back leg is my favourite. Very easy to do. Very simple. So, there's that camera. That is your rump. This front bit here, that's your rump. Great for stir fries, casseroles, curries. I love cooking, if it's got a nice bit of fat like this bad boy does. Slice it up, thumb thickness, and cook it on, just cook it on the frying pan. Get some barbecue lanes or something like that. Magic dust probably works really well with that. So your first cut, good. First cut straight across the rump. Okay, so that's really nice. That's actually bigger than some of the reds of before. So you'd slice it that way. Okay, so really easy to do. Again, trim the fat. Don't want a lot of fat because sometimes they can be waxy. But trim that way, easy to do. Next bit, take your shank off. So you're just in there. You can feel the joint. There's his knee. Now you come just up here. Okay, and now when you're butchering, always have the top side inside. Does that make sense? Does that make sense to anyone? Top side and the inside. Okay. I take the shank off because it's easy, and then all you got is your top side, your round, and your silver side. Now, those three bits, easy to use, great for stir fries. Okay, so the knee was there, I go up. Best way to do it is just have your knife and feel it till it gives away. Now, once you get that first cut, I'm putting my knife in. I'm feeling the joint. It's basically, I don't know how to explain it any other way. It's just, you're going like that and feel the joint, and then you're just listening to it. I'm holding it up, and there it goes. Now you can French it, you can reciprocating saw, do all that. It's up to you. Me, I just chuck it in the crock pot and walk away for 8 hours and come back and yummy. It's the opposite way that I should be doing it, but I'll do it the opposite way so you guys can see it. So there's your femur. I put my heart against the bone, which is not. There it is. And I'm going to tip that knife hard against that bone all the way up and open it up. You kind of want to see white bone like that. You see white bone, that means you've got something going right. You're hard against that bone. Obviously, you've done all that hard work shooting the deer. Now you got to backpack it out. You want to keep every bit of meat possible for yourself. Flip it round so the joint's facing you. You'll have your knife on that side of the bone. So I'm watching the camera to see. And I'm having an angle. So we're just doing it like that. Now this bit here is your round. Or your knuckle bone. Don't give that to your dog. You will kill it. Butchers will normally get rid of it. You don't normally see it. They just can't be digested whatsoever. So have your knife up against that marrow bone, have it all the way up, and you'll feel that joint pop. There it goes. We see that? And I have it just basically, just keep working that bone all the way around until you get to it so you can hold it like a purse, or sit it up like that, tip your knife, and you're just going to go in and around it like that. Again, watching your fingers. Now, if I was at a butcher shop, I'd try and make it look all pearly white and special, but all you need to really do is put your, like that. Should, probably not going to because it's too cold. I'm just going to go roll it out with a knife. Knife underneath. Just roll it out. Okay, very simple. Hard against the bone. Dog's going to love you. Cut it in half. But that, I've left it on in there, which is what you normally do. That's perfect for your dogs. Okay, make sure if you left the knuckle in there, you take it out. Because the second that comes off, the dog can't digest it, can't crap it out, you go into the vet, and it's going to be expensive. Now, that's how I like to have it. So you got your round, your top side. Lift your top side up. See that seam? You can see where I'm going to put my knife along it. I'm going to put my knife through that seam and open it right up. And that bit there would be called your gravy beef. If you're at the butcher shop, stewing meat. Take that out, and we're just going to dice it up for ourselves. And we're going to open this top side right up. Okay, so now we've got the top side there, the silver side, the round. Before I do anything else, right there, you can see it. That right there is a chunk of gland. You cut that out first thing you do, because that tastes like snot. It looks like snot. Cut the rest of the gravy beef out, and both sides, just pick it out. That's just a hunk of fat with a little bit of terrible butchering from me. So, yeah, get rid of that. Silver side, top side, round. Okay, very simple to butcher. You just put your knife along the seam, and you should see silver on both sides. Now, that's the round I'm rolling out. That's that bone I was just talking about. We're going to just leave that there because at the moment it's playing a nice little anchor, and just roll it out. Okay, now we'll cut it out and go chuck that in the bin, burn it, whatever. Make sure your dog doesn't touch that. Roll the round out. Okay, and there, I'll trim it up quickly. That's a round. Now, there's lots of seams on rounds. Personally, don't worry about the seams. Take the silver off and slice it this way. Again, we're not going to do that tonight because we'll be here forever. Slice it that way, silver off. Great for jerky, stir fries. I know guys that have roasted it. I haven't done that yet. Yeah, give it a crack. So, beautiful piece of meat, nice and red through the middle. Now, silver side. Sorry, camera. So this is our silver side. We all know why it's called a silver side, because there's a massive bit of silver. You'll probably get shot in the butcher school doing this, but I just go straight off. Cut that silver, get rid of it. You're never going to use it. Yeah, you can see top side, that seam right there. We're just going to go straight. There's your silver side. There's your top side. I love rolling these and make them into a roast. Best thing I do is cut it open, roll it right out, put feta, sun-dried tomatoes, seeded mustard, spinach, roll it back in, and just tie some knots. You know, if you don't know how to tie a butcher's knot, just tie lots. And then you've got your nice top side. Now, I love top side for jerky, and I buy that KFC seasoning, or we've got some wild game seasoning. Just buy that, make schnitzels out of breadcrumb, and that's how you slice it this way. Best bit for jerky, but just trim it up nicely.
And biltong and all
Biltong as well.
Yeah. There's lots of other parts of meat to use on a deer. You got to see how much you need and whatnot. Here I'm just taking this little bit off because there's too much fur and stuff on it. I find leaving the membrane on till later is awesome because it acts like cling wrap, and you take it off and that's going to come off with 90% of any of the fur and dirt that we've got. Because we were caping it, it didn't get to stay as clean as it usually would. Usually if I'm just doing an animal to eat and not caping it, I'm very careful with every fold you do so that you don't get anything back on itself and you're not getting fur or dirt contaminating the rest of your meat. So with this section here, still needs a bit of cleaning up, but you've got ribs here. A lot of people leave them. On an animal like this that's really nice and fat, it has quite a bit of meat there. And if a bullet wound's not too bad, it's worth taking them. But you got to check, like if a bullet hits ribs, it'll shatter the bone and there'll be bone fragments around a lot. You sort of got to get rid of it. But if you've got a nice clean batch of ribs like this, it can be worth taking them. Again, it's good to slow cook them first. Like I know a lot of people that'll sort of slow cook them in liquid first and then get onto them. So you can get away with using a chopper. Saws work as well. Usually I try and find the last rib and go through to take that out. Actually, this side's still got all the backstraps and stuff in there, so I'll leave that all intact. Another thing you can do with this stuff is leave it on the bone, and some of these, if you are chopping the ribs, you can chop them up a little bit further and make cutlets out of it. Do you want to
take the shoulder off one more time.
Make it a bit easier
So,
to get to.
like Maddie showed you before, see how if she runs, well he runs I should say, you basically want to picture your knife going like all the way through there. Don't stab yourself in the leg. Knife just goes through there, and once you get through that first bit, you think, oh, I'm cutting meat. It will open up, so don't stress. There you go. So see how it all opened up? Just follow that. Now, there's no mistakes in this kind of stuff because, you know, there's a thing called a mincer, which is awesome. And as an apprentice, she hides a lot of mistakes. Just got to make sure the boss is not around. Now, again, round through there. Pre-cut if you want. If you don't want to pre-cut, just let the weight do itself. If you can hang a deer up, it's just so much easier to handle.
As we can see here now, like I was going to like that whole patch, but again, you can see there is some bullet damage. So this is from the entry. So it wasn't a bad shot. Went through just to the back of the shoulder, but there was a bit of a raking shot, so it did come further out on the backside. So what I do when I come to this is I just got to explore to see how bloodshot it is. That looked like a perfectly good bit, but as soon as you cut in, you can see that the blood meat sort of comes back to about there, even a bit further back. So generally I'd probably leave that. You can cut a bit out, but there you're cutting all the meat off the top. So I might do it more as a demonstration that if it is a good set, and you can at least get a smaller section out of it. So like if you wanted to take it to there instead, you just, and then you use the saw to cut your sections out.
So where Matty's cutting now is a soft brisket bone. It's actually, you can actually just use your knife. If you can get it in the right spot. Doesn't always work.
No, so cheap.
Reciprocating saw makes life 10 times easier. Even a hacksaw will do the job.
And you can get it to stay still. That's enough.
Use that.
That's all good.
There you go.
And again, I've actually gone too far. You can see the back strap starting there. So if you were to cut the ribs off short here instead, you can then turn them into cutlets, which is one thing I've been doing lately, which has been incredible. So I'll see how this goes for cutting through. That other saw might work a bit better. Let's give that a try.
Peter. One of my
So
favourite
fatty.
dishes. You can buy those pieces of, I don't know what they're called, bit of metal together. If not, just tie it up, that over the fire, olive oil, some sort of seasoning, doesn't matter. Magic dust works really well. Leave that over the fire for about 5 hours. It's awesome. Even just salt. Yeah.
Just going to cut off this bit of line. Hold that.
So you can see where the backstrap would have been if you didn't get smoke through there. And also the fillet.
Yeah, so when you do shoot a deer, one of the things you try and do is not shoot it too high like this one's been shot. I didn't shoot it, so just for... But no, it's been shot in the spine, 100% a lethal shot. But if you can see, it does a fair bit of damage to some of your most prime cuts. So you want to try and avoid that shot. If it's down into the rib cage, it's not going to damage your best bits of meat on the deer. With these, they need a bit of trimming up and stuff. However, if you cut down into the center of them, do your cut through the meat, and then get your saw again. And just give it a bit of a demo. If this works all right, you can. Going through the whole thing. If you get it in the right section, it can actually be quite easy to cut it into cutlets. Sometimes it's even easier to cut it off and cut through there, so it's just on that backbone as well. Or you cut directly through the center. Often that's a lot harder to do in the field. That's more if you're getting the whole animal back. Otherwise, if like you're looking at this and it's a lot more ruined than I'd like, so I just fillet it off the back section and see what you could salvage. So again, you're looking for the blood meat, and like some of it's coming up pretty soon. So trying to get this backstrap out of here, and we'll see how much damage has been done.
The knives that I use are the Victorinox 5 or 6 inch. Another knife I use is a Swibo. Now I like the Victorinox softer steel. I have an Agali Magna Cut as well, but I use that out in the field only. And then the Swibo and the Victorinox I have only for when I'm back at camp in my butchering segment.
So yeah, you can chop that up. You do have a line of sinew that goes towards the end of the backstrap as it narrows. There is a line of sinew there. It's up to you how pedantic you are. I usually separate it. And it's along the seam. I'm getting my thumb in there. A bit of a cut, you can see it opens up. And that's the clean backstrap there. Again, I'd take the time, remove all the bits of fat and sinew, and you can get a perfectly clean bit of meat with no sinew at all. Again, I'd usually fillet off all the bits of silver skin as well. It'll make it a better eating experience. Basically all your gristle in meat is silver skin like that. You got to think of a deer as very different to a cow. A cow doesn't run and jump around a lot, whereas a deer does. As a result, it's the silver skin and the sinew on deer is much stronger than in a cow. Even though a cow's a much bigger animal, it's often much better to cut off all the white silver skin. Leaves you a much better piece of meat like that. And that's actually come out. There's a little bit of a cut there, but it's actually come out pretty unscathed, even though that bullet grazed just below it and it did break the spine. It actually didn't contaminate any of that meat, so that's perfectly right to eat, and one of the best bits on the deer. So the neck is another bit that often gets wasted and shouldn't be. It is great for any of your slow cookers. Again, you just got to fillet it off the neck bone. There is tons of sinew And sinew is flavour when you're talking about slow cooking. And that's what makes it nice and juicy and stuff like that. When you get a slow cooker that's delicious, it's usually, not that I can really see what I'm doing here, but you basically are cutting it off the spine. And there's a lot of meat in the neck. Can't see what I'm doing. I'll move it back a bit so I can. Yep. Better. So you've got some knobbly bones you've got to go around here. That's just part of the spine. And you should expose the esophagus very shortly, which will run up the center of the neck. It's in here. That's usually what I do as my halfway point. And see, that is a massive chunk of meat off the neck that a lot of people leave, and it makes awesome slow cookers and mince. And then you've got it on the other side as well. The ribs, obviously, you can take. You do need a saw or a good cleaver to get them out. If I start hacking them with that, it'll probably make a bit of a mess here, so I won't get into that. Unfortunately, we did it on the wrong side. Probably could have a crack at the other side here. And some people obviously really love ribs. I have had amazing venison ribs. The main thing is, because they're quite fatty, you really want them only when they're in really good nick. So basically how they are now is probably the best time to get them. With something like this, I'll just try and saw the whole lot off. I'm digging into the spine a bit there, I think.
So see how Matty's going along that brisket bone?
Sometimes you can split them down there. Maybe. So there you got a massive big rack of ribs. With something like this deer at this time of the year, they actually will be delicious because the fat will actually taste good. But at certain times of the year, the fat will be not the best and a bit overpowering. Again, you've got a bit of damage there, so you probably cut a few of those off until that's started to get good. So maybe even through there. Sometimes you can crack and get through that cartilage. So again, you just clean that up with a bit of paper towel and just get the blood out of there. Again, if you're doing it properly, I'd probably try and, because it is so strong, I'd probably try and remove the lining like you do on, say, a rack of pork ribs. Let's see if it'll do it for me today. Hands are a bit slippery. But again, it's same as with pork, and you remove that because it's quite tough. But once you've removed that, that should cook up beautiful. Same as if you're doing some pork ribs. I always find it better to remove that layer of sinew there to make it like delicious. And so you either slow cook it for a bit and then put your sauce on, finish it in the oven, or one like this that does have enough fat on it, you could probably just put it straight in the smoker and it'll probably turn out good. That is one of the fattiest bits of rib you'll ever find off a deer of any sort. So yes, that might be going home with me actually. So give that a crack. But yeah, you got, like, you weigh that is like quite a few kilos of meat there. And yeah, if you cook that right, there's plenty of fat to render out. Cook it low and slow. That should be delicious.
What about cleaning them in cold water to fix it off?
Try never to wash the meat. It's too easy to introduce contamination. If you have to, you have to. If you've had a deer that's shot and the guts are blown or whatever, 100% I would hose it out and then try and get it dried up as much as possible. But yeah, anytime you're in store, you're welcome to come up to any of us and ask us about any tips and tricks and stuff that we use. A couple of things I always take out in the field with me is a bit of plastic or a little tarp, and this I will put on the ground. And so these bits of meat, especially if I'm got a large animal and I'm only doing the one trip back and I want to take as much meat as possible, something like this, and all it needs to be is like half or a little piece of a tarp, and you can lie it on the ground, put all your meat on there, stops all the sticks and bugs and dirt and crap from getting onto it. And I find that's a really handy trick to keep your meat clean in the bush. I generally wear gloves as well. And it's not so much for me, it's in the bush, a lot of stuff won't stick to the gloves as well as it will stick. It seems to stick to your hand like shit to a blanket. Anything that, like bits of fur, dirt, gum nuts, whatever, I find wearing gloves in the field really, and all you need is, yeah, stuff like this, or these are some game bags. Obviously, we've got a large selection up there. But also taking just some disposable gloves with you can be handy just to keep your hands clean. Here I've got access to hot water and stuff. It's easy to wash them. In the field it can be really a pain in the ass to get all the blood off your hands when it dries. Plus I find it allows you to keep your meat a lot cleaner. So yeah, that's basically it for now, guys. Any questions, any more questions you've got, go for it. I hope it's been a pretty thorough introduction and demo for you. And also think about anything else you'd like to see us do. We've got a wealth of knowledge here in this store, yeah, from all different types of the industry. So there's stuff that you'd really like to learn about, please let us know so we can bring it up in a future night for you guys. So yeah, thanks guys. Any more questions at all?
Are there any parasites or anything you gotta watch out for?
So all animals, there is a risk. Venison seemed to be one of the cleanest animals out there. I have I've cut up hundreds of deer and I've only found probably 2 or 3 that I discarded. Checking the liver and the heart, lungs is always the easiest thing. It's nowhere near like with pork. Wild pork scares me, basically. You really need to know what you're doing with that. I know there is, if you learn enough, there's ways to get around it. I personally haven't had any issue with wild venison in Australia, and it is super rare to find anything in them. You've always got to be aware of like any of the liver fluke and stuff like that, but you mainly find that in pigs rather than, I can't even recall if I've ever found liver fluke in wild deer in Australia. Definitely can happen. All it needs is for a deer to pick up to eat a bit of grass that's had a bit of crap on it from a dog or a pig to get it. So it can be transferred, but generally they're really clean. But it's always a risk in everything you're eating like that. And just look at the health. The number one thing is to look at the health of the animal. If the animal looks really healthy, it should be all right. If you're a bit dubious or whatever, definitely open it up, check the liver, check the lungs, check the heart, stuff like that. Looking for anything that looks weird or odd.
Is there anything that really stands out?
So I guess a lot of white bits or different discoloration on the liver is a big one.
Mainly white spots is what you're looking for.
Yeah.
The biggest thing I've found is the old shot or an old wound. That's where you'll get in with your knife and it'll be all pussy and yuck. Just cut way around that. Take that well and truly away from all your meat. But mainly when you're gutting, there's white spots on the liver, or it looks like they you'll see on the end of it, like your liver will come down like a triangle, and normally on the bottom of it, where it starts, it looks like it's been smoking a pack a day. It looks real yuck and greeny grey looking white spots. Get rid of that. I wouldn't touch a deer if it had that on it.
But we're talking about, it's fortunately in Australia it's extremely rare to find. Like I have heard of one person that they liked eating the liver and they pulled out a liver and it was crawling with a parasite. But I've only heard of 2 instances of that ever. I don't know what type of parasite it was. If you get a microbiologist to go through the whole lot, there's a bazillion disease you can get from anything, like drinking water, whatever. So it's always a risk. You've got to be aware of that, and you just got to try and mitigate the risk. And the best thing is by checking out, making sure it's a healthy looking animal. Where it gets hard is sort of at the end of the rut or a period like that, when the deer are buggered, they've been fighting, bashing each other up. They're not going to be the best eating anyway. So I'm not usually targeting deer to eat at the end of the rut. It's better, if it's at the end of the rut, you're better off to wait another few weeks or another month or 2 till they start fattening themselves back up again. Like a rooster now is in primo condition because they're getting ready for their rut, whereas red and fallow are still in really poor condition because they've just gone through the raw rut for that species. So it depends time of year and also the feed that's available. In a good year, they're going to be a lot better eating, better body condition, better fat than in a bad year. But once the hormones start running, it gets that time of the year when they're rutting, they will try and kill each other flat out, and they can lose probably close to 50% of their body weight in a few weeks, just going to town on each other. And you see, like, you got fat like that will all disappear. It'll go yellow and it'll go a bit sort of like almost see-through colour, and that's a sure sign it's just had a really hard time and it's not going to eat really well. They can also be super tough after the rut because they've been so wide, hormones pumping through them, bashing each other up flat out. It's always better, like at that time of year, if I want a deer to eat, I'll pretty much always go for a hind. I find hinds are generally better eating, except for that little window with a stag just before they start rutting, when they are as fat as they get. That is sort of probably the only exception. And again, it depends on the age of the animal. Younger animals are generally better, but condition, feed, time of year, the hormone cycles can all play a part of it. But yeah. Any other questions at all? So, no, all good. Well, thank you, everybody.